Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Quarantine Catch-Up. My name is Chris Famularo. Alongside me today in the guest box is the Bowtie King, a Weeknd superfan, and the freshest voice on the airwaves, Jose Feliciano. Jose, thank you so much for joining me today.
It's my pleasure, Chris. This is like the first time I get an introduction from you, and it's not like Pirate TV or WSOU related, so
I
this is certainly
know
weird.
it's definitely very interesting. I had to hold back from saying either for WSOU or for Pirate TV, but listen, I'm very happy to continue the tradition of us being on the air together.
Yeah, I'm definitely with that. I miss this,
I miss
truly.
this too. I 100% miss this with all of my being. But as I said, this is a quarantine catch-up. While many would love to think that quarantine is done, it's not. We're still going here. A lot of people are still stuck at home, either by choice or not by choice. So what have you been doing in your off time? What music have you been enjoying? What TV have you watched? Movies, video games, have you been playing any? What has Jose Feliciano been up to in quarantine?
Quarantine has been very up and down. I can definitely say that. Certainly started off on a down note.
Yeah.
Pretty sure I got the virus.
Not
So that was
good.
pretty awesome. Had a breakup, also awesome.
Same there.
Although that actually was awesome. Because ever since then, things have been kind of amazing.
Well, that's good.
It definitely sucked not being able to graduate and stuff, but I will say that it kind of I had to get back in full gear eventually once things started to get a little more normal.
Yeah.
I eventually got a job, and I've been working there ever since. So that's pretty cool.
Very cool.
And as far as music and stuff, as After Hours came out right at the beginning of the quarantine, so that certainly has been where I've been listening to mainly. Although I will say I have rekindled my love for punk and classic punk too, because I know punk is a very broad genre, but I would definitely say classic 80s punk, classic 80s glam rock and metal.
Oh, very
Definitely
cool.
got back on that grind. Been listening to a lot of
Nice.
Motley Crue again and Rat.
Ooh.
And some funk. Finally, I started to get in with funk last year, and then somebody made fun of me for it, and I
Oh,
all right, I'm not doing this anymore. I said screw that, and I'm totally gonna get back on the funk train. And you know what? It's pretty cool.
it is. Funk is amazing. Listen, that era of music that you have placed yourself in, it's a wonderful time to be in that era of music. I mean, like you said, the glam rock era, early pop punk, not pop punk, but punk era is just phenomenal music. And funk, I can't say enough about. I mean, funk has such a huge influence on a lot of hip hop that we are listening to today, and just the overall vibe of all that music. I mean, that's really a lot of good, I'm sure, comfort music that can be helping out in some times, whether helping you get over a breakup or getting into a new job, or really just trying to make your way through the day-to-day of quarantine life.
Yeah, it definitely makes things a lot easier. I don't know what I am without music. It's I have to listen to music every day. If anybody ever knows me, if I'm walking the street alone, I'm wearing headphones and I am listening to whatever it may be. Although I will admit, for the first time, and I didn't think this was gonna happen, but quarantine makes us do weird things. I have developed a love for podcasts.
Listen, dude, they're not bad. If you find your
I
right
figured you know that
niche,
best.
if you find your right niche of podcasts, I mean, me being a huge TV and movie nerd, I listen to the Office Ladies podcast. I listen to another podcast on the show called Barry from HBO. I listen to a number of different podcasts ranging throughout different forms of media. So I agree, podcasts are very good. But I mean, back to the always listening to music thing. You and Valentino Petrarca are the two people who I remember from my time at Seton Hall. If they were on the campus of Seton Hall, they had headphones around their neck or on their head. And honestly, it's just something I associate with you, is listening to music. And I mean, I said it at the beginning of the podcast, you're a Weeknd super fan. I truly want to go over how you feel about After Hours, because I love it. It might be my favorite Weeknd album as this far, but then again, I need to really reintroduce myself to the early Weeknd. So as someone who knows his discography back to front, I would love to know your opinion.
The man doesn't miss. Even
That's very true.
the extras that came afterwards with the bonus tracks, I love them. It's certainly, I hate to keep bringing it up, but like being that, you know, he's a bit of a sad boy and eventually I did endure a breakup and stuff. It was definitely interesting listening to it a second time after that. But like it was a little different for me because whereas I feel like he's apologizing for everything all the time, I'm on the opposite of Ed. So it's definitely interesting listening to it from another perspective for the first time compared to before. But as far as actual music goes, usually I don't let that emotional aspect sort of get me into it. Normally, I'm kind of somebody who was really just into a beat. That's how I kind of started getting into R&B and stuff. I wanted to, you know, get with the flow, and I lost my mind listening to this album when it first came out. I mean, look at this thing.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of went crazy with the merch too. I absolutely love this album. It kind of just, listening to it just made me happy inside. And it was a fulfilling feeling considering the times that we're in. Because I had the pleasure of seeing him live just for one song, Blinding Lights, in it was like a thing before a Tonight Show. And I only saw him perform one song, and it was amazing. And I definitely was supposed to go to see him in July, and I didn't get to do that. But honestly, being able to listen to everything over and over again, because yes, I'm that type of person. I will listen to something over and over again. And sometimes, you know, you get tired of it. I haven't gotten tired of this album, and I'm sure eventually maybe I will, but I'm always going to like it. I'm always going to respect it. It's just so pleasing to hear. He's got an incredible voice. The beats are just incredible. I cannot say enough about this album. It's just, it was amazing. And it kind of really threw me back to some of his older stuff a bit, because Starboy, his last full studio album, was certainly a change in direction for him, which I think is good to stay fresh. But I feel like he did a bit of both. He kind of went back to his old way, ironic. That's definitely a plug to Heartless. But he also kind of like continues to sort of reinvent himself. And that's why I really appreciate him as an artist.
Yeah, and a lot of the things, I mean, a lot of the teaser tracks for this album really laid out the groundwork, I would say, for this album, and it kind of laid out the vibe that he was going for. And I know whenever you talk to anybody about this album, they're like, man, it's super 80s. It's really like, really upbeat.
Yes, I love that.
And it's like, I love it. And I think I said this with Tommy way early on when we were talking about music earlier on the podcast. And he said, or I had said, it's very 80s, but it's not the 80s like with just the Weeknd attached to it. It seems to be Abel's viewpoint or his feeling of the 80s and his emotions through the lens of the 80s, you know, pop and dance. And it's fire. It's so good. It is so good. Save Your Tears. I think Save Your Tears might be my favorite song off of that album. Even though After Hours exists as a song, Save Your Tears might be my favorite one because, like I said, I also went through a breakup during quarantine, and that song just hit different on another level, you know. And it's like that's what's amazing about music, and we've had this conversation with a bunch of people, and you as well, is that emotional level that you can attain with even just a song or a verse or a beat. It's really impressive how powerful that music is. And honestly, this album might be the most powerful work that I have experienced from the Weeknd so far. But going forward, I would love to know what are some of your other favorite artists. You know, they could be from, you know, they don't have to be popular today. Just I want to know what is in your catalog of favorite artists.
That's tough, because I feel like I definitely have a wide variety. If we're not talking The Weeknd, I would definitely say my favorite artist is a band, and that would be Dream Theater. I have marked out about them so much in the past. That's the one thing that, like, I always had. My love for The Weeknd actually came very sudden. Like, you're not going to believe this, but the reason how I found The Weeknd was through playing Madden 16. because Can't Feel My Face was on that, and that was my first taste of The Weeknd.
Oh wait, so your first taste of The Weeknd was from Starboy?
My first like new Weeknd, yes, my freshman year, and that was like,
Wow.
yeah, I feel like my music taste for anything really grew my freshman year, and a lot of that is due to my first roommate. His name was Abraham. He was a big, huge influence on me, music-wise, and he really helped me introduce me to a lot of other artists. Like, he introduced me to Kanye West. Childish Gambino is a big one. You and I have spoken about him before. And
Love me some Donald Glover.
exactly. I literally watched all of Community just for him.
Mhm.
And yeah, so if we're talking other artists, it would definitely be those two. Dream Theater, again, I would bring up Motley Crue is a big one for me, coming from somebody who is big on 80s glam. I think of them a lot. I would also say Metallica. That one's like a classic for me because, see, again, I've like, when it comes to like the rock metal genre, I kind of have a bit of variety there. Punk's cool with me, but I definitely like fast stuff. I like fast music. If I'm gonna listen to rock, if I'm gonna listen to a guitar, I want it to be fast. I can't do slow stuff. It's just
You want
not
the
me.
shred.
I don't know.
Shred.
Yeah, I wish I could shred myself, but I'm definitely big into uh, fast stuff like that. Like, listen, Dream Theater has range as far as like they can go fast, they can go slow, they can be in between. But I just definitely love the efficiency, the way that they play each of their respective instruments. I've had the pleasure of being able to interview some of the guys from the band, and that was awesome. I've seen all these artists I've seen live outside of like Kanye and Childish Gambino. I should have seen Motley Crue this summer, but again, the virus hit. But I'm grateful to have like all these different perspectives of music because I don't want to be trapped in one genre. So I
Yeah.
definitely like the fact that like I really am a big fan of R&B, but I can also go crazy and listen to a little bit of metal once in a while.
Well, I mean, you and I know why the metal thing is, a little bit more evident in our lives, and we both share an alumnus that is WSOU, part of the Seton Hall group. But WSOU, we were both staff members there. I mean, you held a many range of positions during your tenure at WSOU. So why don't we delve into that a bit? How did you get started at WSOU? And I guess we'll kind of just go from there. We'll talk about your whole time at WSOU.
Oh man, WSU is definitely the reason I went to Seton Hall in the first place. Because I knew that it was one of the best college stations around. I get there, and of course, I'm immediately blown away, like everybody is when they first walk in there.
Yeah, I feel that.
At first, I was only thinking about sports, but I also happened to listen to metal before I got to WSOU. So I was like, I already know some of this stuff. Most
Cool.
people who go into WSU have no idea about the music that's played there. But I actually had some knowledge, and I was thinking about, maybe I'll be a DJ. Of course, eventually, the dashing one was born. But as I continued to grow there, once I got started, I did everything I could to be involved. And the moment I like passed the class and got in, I was doing shifts I was running the phones already, trying to get any opportunity possible. Sports came around and I got my feet wet there, and I did whatever I could to get involved, whether it be writing articles, staying in studio, and eventually that helped me get my first assistant position, to be the assistant sports director. I also got probably the best work study on campus. I don't know, you had a really good work study on campus, but I am fairly confident that I had probably one of the best because I know it was a slightly higher paying than most of the work studies. The actual work of it was not hard. I literally just stayed at WSOU for 6 hours every Sunday, and I did it from my freshman year all the way to the end of my college career. And I literally just stood there while people who have been community programmers who have been working at WSOU for years and years. I mean, you had the Polka Party show, which was there since 1965, if I'm not mistaken. That's the longest tenured show in WSU history. You've got the Armenian Radio Hour. They've been around since, I think, the 70s or 80s. And the same thing with the Arab Caravan. all these people know what they're doing. So my job, I didn't really have to. I was just a body that was just there and read the transmitter, and it was fairly easy. Last Sunday was the first Sunday I didn't watch NFL Red Zone at WSU like I always did back when I was there. That was like my ritual.
Yeah.
So I did work study, newscasting, DJing, sports, all that there. Eventually, I grew aspirations. I wanted to become the station manager. That didn't work out my first time around. So in response, I became the staff rep. And that was definitely a great experience. It was a great growing experience. It was kind of like, I consider my junior year to be a people study. I get to see why some people do certain things, because it was definitely weird working in a management position. That was the first time I ever had something like that. And while staff rep's not that serious, you're kind of HR for a staff of around 100 people and college kids at that, people who are still growing. They're not even full. They're adults, but they're not full on there yet, and I'm not even a full on adult. There's people that are younger or older than I am that I kind of like managing over. But, it was definitely a great experience. I got to learn a lot. I got to run a food drive. That was awesome. Got to learn how to really run events and teach a class. I eventually went for station manager again. It didn't work out that time either. And I know somebody who's previously been in the show, Wilner Lewis, got that. And that kid did so much better than I ever could. And, losing that, it was definitely in the long run. I have no regrets about that. I'm happy with the way things turned out. I feel like I got the better of it anyway, because I was able to focus more on myself, my social life, relationships. So it was really cool. But overall, I am nothing without WSOU, because the opportunity that I had there to be a sportscaster and do it the way that I did it, I mean, I was able to win awards for that. That was super awesome. I've gone, before I went to WSOU, I've only gone on a plane once, and it was to Jacksonville, Florida. I have gone on a plane at least 10 times since then, going to places like Seattle, California twice, once for an award I won because of WSOU. I've gone to Indianapolis, Chicago, multiple times. All these places, I have that because of WSOU, and it was an incredible experience that not only did I get to experience it, but, I wasn't there just to play around. I got work done, and I feel like it's certainly going to help me in the long run, because I obviously, like everybody else in my position, I want to get somewhere in this industry, and I feel like it is one of the greatest stepping stones you will ever get, I feel like, anywhere, because I've seen other radio stations before, and they just can't be at the efficiency that WSOU is, and it was incredible to just experience all of that in my 4 years at Seton Hall.
Yeah, I mean, WSOU, I think anyone who was a part of WSOU and took full advantage of what WSOU offered will do nothing but sing its praises once they are no longer a part of it, just like you did. But also the main part of that is you have to do just that. You have to take advantage of what everything that WSOU offers. And you very clearly did that. You stated one of the things I was very excited to bring up next was the fact that you did win an award from your work with WSOU. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was that with CBI, or what organization was that with?
It was with let's see. I mean, I've won 3. I've won 1 for the top college broadcasters in the nation. I believe that was done by, it's a big radio organization. I should absolutely get it. But off the top of my head, I don't recall the organization it's from, but I do know that it's a national award. I went with 2 other people who also won the award that year. One person was from the Carolinas, the other person was from Indiana. But it was definitely a heck of an experience to go to the Worldwide Radio Summit. So there was that, and I also won twice. I finished in 3rd place for best radio play-by-play in sports in the state of New Jersey for last year and the year before that. So that was from the Garden State Journalists Association. So again, the trip to California was one of the best experiences of my life. I got to see just how nice radio people are, because they were just so helpful. I met somebody there who helped me get into a radio talent group, and I got to go to Boston. I didn't really enjoy myself, but it was definitely a great opportunity for to experience that. And again, I learned from it. I learned that radio marketing isn't for me. But I got this opportunity because, again, somebody put themselves out there and said, "Hey, we see a lot of talent in you, and we want to groom you to be even better." And they certainly tried that when I went up there. So it was definitely an amazing experience. But I think that the award was from radio.com. I don't want to just look it up now, but yeah, it was definitely. I'm sorry, I just can't recall
It's okay.
off the
It's
top
okay.
of my head right now.
The major portion is the fact that because of your work with WSOU and the fact that you are a talented broadcaster, you were able to enjoy some of the pleasures of being good at your job, and as well as your experience and hard work that you put in at WSOU. So you talked a little bit about the fact that you did win some awards for sports play-by-play. Do you have a favorite call or moment from working? It doesn't have to be when you were play-by-play. It could be when you were the color analyst or even the beat writer. Do you have a specific sports memory from when you were working covering sports with WSOU or Pirate TV or by yourself?
I definitely have a lot. I can't say. It's hard for me to think of a bad thing for it. All of the things have been amazing. I mean, I went to the Bahamas. This is the first time I left the country, and I got that through WSOU covering a Thanksgiving tournament, and it was a huge tournament. I mean, we faced 2 ranked teams, if I'm not mistaken, and oh man, it was a heck of an experience to go to the Bahamas. It was literally vacation and work at the same time. So I got to experience a bit of both. But I would say the best memory I have, it was junior year, and I did play-by-play at Madison Square Garden for a St. John's Seton Hall game. Seton Hall didn't even win the game. They started off very poor. And this game I actually did win one of the awards for the Garden State Journalists Association. So that call was an award-winning call. And what was so special to me about that was I didn't realize it until so my group for that day was Wilner Lewis, who I considered to be one of my best friends, arguably my best friend. If I got married tomorrow, that man would be my best man. And then I also went with Dalton Allison, who was also a very close friend of mine. So I'm with 2 of my best friends, and I'm covering a game in New York City, and Dalton just casually says, "It's homecoming for you." And I'm like, "Is it?" And then he just starts saying "Homecoming" by Kanye. But then it hits me. I'm from New York. This is my city. And I'm doing play-by-play at the Mecca with 2 of my closest friends. This is actually kind of incredible. And this is also at a time where the Seton Hall-St. John's rivalry, I feel like at least in our years at Seton Hall, was at its peak because both teams were actually good at the same time. St. John's hasn't been that good recently, except for that year. So it was this is a big game. It's at the Mecca in my city. This is a big deal. So I definitely went all out for this call, and I was very happy with the end result. We didn't win, but I knew that I had a great call. It was very special to me because I remember I just feeling warm inside, thinking about this is my home. I'm doing it. I'm not saying I made it, but at the time that was definitely I felt like my crowning achievement. I'm calling a big game at the world's most famous arena. Not only that, I'm experiencing it with 2 of my best friends, and it was just awesome.
Yeah, I have not a similar experience, but calling a different game for a different organization. It was Seton Hall versus Kentucky at Madison Square Garden. I covered that game with Pirate TV with Rob Ruskowski and Jill Yarzabowitz, and Rob and I did the post-game report. We reported it from the stands, with the court and as our backdrop. And I think there was actually a Knicks game that night.
Yes.
So they were switching over the boards for the Knicks game. And it was this surreal experience because it kind of showed, we were still students and we were still learning our craft. But at that point, when you have your press credentials and you have your equipment, you're considered a professional. You're considered someone who shouldn't be messed with, while you're doing your work. And it's just I still go back and watch that post game report, and it's so interesting to see what we're allowed to do at not such a young age, but at an age where you almost wouldn't be expecting to be covering, college basketball at such a professional level and such a high scale level like Madison Square Garden. And it's one of the experiences that I don't think I will ever forget from my college career. I guess just moving forward, you also talked about the fact that you were also a DJ with WSOU. Did you enjoy being a DJ? Is that something that you would like to do further down the line as a career, or would you more like to continue working in sports?
I definitely like to keep working in sports. I mean, my senior year, I stopped DJing completely, although I wanted more time for myself, for more internships and for my relationship and stuff. But I also, I want to focus more on what I did want to do. I definitely enjoyed DJing. Saying hi, it's the dashing one is definitely kind of like, it was kind of a joke to me because, it's such a conceited thing to say, but that's a self-given nickname when I was still 13 and super conceited. But I kind of just stuck with it as a joke. I wanted to be the Cyclone, but there was already somebody who was named the Hurricane, and he's an amazing DJ, one of the best I've seen at WSOU. And I wasn't just going to copy his name. I want to be the Cyclone because I'm from Brooklyn, and the Cyclone is like my favorite roller coaster of all time. It's in Coney Island. So I wanted to do that, but, I couldn't do that. So I stuck with the other self-proclaimed nickname that I gave myself. But it was definitely a great experience because, I do like the music. It's not like I'm just throwing on music like a lot of some of the DJs do when they first get started. And it's like, okay, I'll see if I like this. I kind of knew that, like, I know what I like. I know what style I want to go for. I definitely got to experiment with it, and I definitely feel like I definitely became a much better DJ. I still didn't give up on DJing my senior year. I just didn't have a constant shift like I did in years past. I also had specialty shows too, and that was pretty cool for a while, but again, I stopped that. But being a consistent DJ was very fun, I will say. Sometimes it felt time consuming because I would do it a lot. I feel like it kind of got to the point where I was doing it so much. That was something that I did too much, and I got tired of it eventually, and that's why I didn't want to keep doing it my senior year, because it got to the point where it was more than just I'm doing this for fun. I'm doing this because, like, some people couldn't make a shift or something, and I was doing a little bit too much, and I didn't have enough time for myself. So it's a lot of things in life. It's the good and bad with it, and for me, I just wanted more time for myself. So personally, it's not something I would want to do in the future. It's certainly it's like a hobby, if you will. It's a lot of fun, but I definitely can't see myself doing that, every single day.
Yeah, it's definitely, I feel that because there was a time, I mean, burnout happens in all forms of jobs, not just in media or anything else. And I felt that a little bit, my senior year. I think very early on, I want to say even as early as like early October, I think I was picking up, shifts left and right just because I wanted the experience and I wanted more airtime. And as anyone, like you or myself who enjoys being on air, you want to get as much of that as you can. And then I think it just kind of hit me like a wall of bricks where it's like, I'm exhausted and I have made so many spotting boards this week and I am just tired and I just want to relax and not have to worry about calling a game. But I agree. I mean, it's good to take time for yourself and to realize your boundaries when it comes to what you're okay with work level wise and realizing where your specialties may lie, whether it's in music or sports. I mean, both of us are huge sports fans. That's definitely something we'll be talking about a little bit later down the line in this episode. But just before we move on from Seton Hall and WSOU, I also would love to ask, there was another organization that you were a part of at Seton Hall, Pirate Television. I know it kind of took you a little bit longer to join Pirate TV for a number of reasons, but before I graduated, thankfully you did join, and you ended up, you and I was able to do a post-game report with you as your debut for Pirate TV. Speak a little bit about your experiences with Pirate TV, how you liked or disliked being on camera talking about sports, the transition from television to radio? I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions on it.
You know, considering all the things that I did for radio, I'm choosing television in a heartbeat. And I will say this, if you were at PTV when I was a freshman, I'd be there the whole time, because I will say you and the other lovely host, Tommy Rinaldi, are the reasons like I wanted to come back. I started there as the trial run for one of our TV classes, and I just didn't want to leave because honestly, I saw that, you know, the culture seemed very off when I first when I first got to Seton Hall, so I didn't want to be a part of it. And I fell in love with the WSU culture, but PTV was definitely an incredible, like, different place. It was a different culture, but certainly in a good way. I cherish my memories the same way I do at WSU. Maybe not to the same extent because of how much I did at WSOU, but I certainly made a lot of amazing friends there and met a lot of great people. Obviously, I knew you from WSU already, but I got to know you even more. I didn't really know Tommy Rinaldi. I got to know him a lot more, and I consider him to be a very good friend of mine. I met amazing people and really got a lot of experience being in front of a camera finally. And that's something, you know, I always felt confident in, but I never actually did it. And then I finally got there. And again, I feel like I was able to grow doing that. And I feel like I'm a much better, you know, if I were to, not say I'm ready to be like a full-on anchor for a national television station, but I'm not even close to that, but I certainly feel a lot better than when I first got there. I mean, I know when I first got there, my mother would always tell me when she would look at my clips, she'd be like, why do you look like you want to murder the entire audience? You need to stop with this serious face. And that's just the way I am.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of have like that dead face, especially when I walk. People at my job tell me I look like I want to kill somebody every day when I walk in the streets. And I kind of still had that dead face when I was broadcasting. So I definitely tried to lighten up a bit. But it was certainly awesome. I think the best part was probably the hangouts after some of these shows and stuff. Those are always a great time. I can't say enough about PTV. It got me out of my shell more, and it was definitely an escape for me because again, there was a time where I kind of like didn't want to be at WSOU because at the moment, you know, they didn't want me for a manager position. So I felt like I needed to be somewhere else, and it was perfect. It made me feel welcome because at that point, I felt like I wasn't welcome somewhere at a place where I wanted to be, you know, very prominent and do a lot for, and I felt like I wasn't given that opportunity. That's okay. Again, it all worked out for the best for I feel like all parties, but PTV was kind of that escape for me, and it was certainly a beautiful change of pace.
I mean, as someone who, you know, held a leadership position with PTV, geez Louise, as someone who held a leadership position with PTV, it makes me, I mean, smile from ear to ear to hear that we were all able to do that for you because, you know, that was what we wanted to do. We wanted to make people feel welcome and feel like they could grow at Pirate Television and they could learn the television studio and what it's like to be on camera. I mean, going back to the looking like you're dead on camera, I mean, that's something I don't think a lot of people realize until you do go on camera to, you know, even just do something as simple as like reading off of a teleprompter. When you watch it back, you know, a lot of people say like, oh man, I hate to hear my voice played back to me. Like, I hate to see my face played back to me because most of the time it's just, and then you're like, why do you look dead inside? You know, it's that's one of the things you just have to learn. And the comfort is the main thing about that, is realizing that you could just be yourself and be happy with what you're doing. And I'm glad that you were able to learn that. I'm glad that I was able to learn that for myself, but also alongside you. I mean, you know, doing Hall Talk was one of my favorite things to do, but immediately second to that was breaking down after Hall Talk and just hanging out for hours and going for dinner and playing video games or just sitting around talking and like you said, listening to music, just being friends. Is WSOU, it was easy to go in and just like go into one of the extra booths, turn on Red Zone and just sit back and watch football and hang out with people and just laugh. But Pirate TV, you're able to just sit in the studio, play music in the studio and just enjoy your entire day and everybody that's around you. Well, now we have talked plenty about school and WSOU, Pirate TV. Let's transition now outside of your own personal experiences. Sports are back. I mean, sports have been back for a while now, but you're an avid sports fan. I mean, you like basketball, football, baseball. I'm sure there's probably one weird one in there that you'll tell me about at some point. But how do you feel overall about sports being back?
I miss it so much. I've never missed something more than I ever have, especially at a time like this. Holy fudge. It is amazing to have sports back. I wish it was maybe on a little safer capacity for some sports, mainly football. I don't think that band should be back yet. And baseball, I know it's tough, but I feel like they kind of got it figured out now. They had a rough start. But, man, does it feel good to have it back, even if my teams absolutely stink.
Yeah, you didn't pick a good bunch when I mean, I can't really argue with you. I'm a Mets fan too. But I don't know. I guess
I picked a bad bunch. I'm not going to lie about that.
Well, why don't we get back into the sport that came back, I guess, really the strongest and the safest, and you also had one of your teams participate in it, and that was the NBA bubble. Your Brooklyn Nets somehow were there, even though it was a bunch of ragtag guys.
Oh, man.
Not really ragtag, but
you're absolutely ragtag.
You're missing Kyrie Irving, and then, a lot of your other prominent players say that they are not going to join the team. DeAndre Jordan didn't show up. Karis LeVert. Not Karis LeVert. Spencer Dinwiddie was the other player who decided to withhold, which, entirely full respect to those players. They are trying to keep themselves safe in what they thought was best for them. How did you enjoy seeing basketball back? I mean, the Nets put on a decent show down in the bubble. What's your thoughts?
As a fan, I was satisfied. As a person who gambles sometimes, man, they beat the Bucks. Are you kidding me? That cost me like $20. Oh, no pun intended. Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Why was this team winning games?
Well,
but at the same time, like, I love to see the way that they came out. Listen, that's Brooklyn grit right there. The Nets came out and balled, and there were times where I'm like trying to follow these games. I'm like, who the heck is this? And I usually know everybody on all of my teams. The Nets are the exception because they just brought on a legitimate ragtag group of guys. But listen, they were well coached by Jacques Vaughn. And listen, Steve Nash is the head coach now. I'm cool with that. But man, was I rooting for Jacques Vaughn to get that job. I'm really happy that he's still on as the highest paid assistant, as he deserves, because he's a darn good coach. But man, it was incredible to see the NBA back in general. The Nets weren't going to get a lot of spotlight because they weren't playing with their first or second best players. I'm very excited for next year for Brooklyn. But overall with the NBA, like, man, I missed it so much. It was amazing to see basketball again. And it still is today. And listen, the basketball is still good. It's still as good as it would be if people were there. Obviously, I wish that people were able to go to games. I wish I was able to go to a game. But I got to give the NBA credit. Like, they were incredible. They handled things, I feel like, in a much more efficient manner than some other sports, mainly baseball. But I'm just happy that it's back.
Yeah, I mean, even for me, as someone who's not that huge of an NBA fan, it was exciting when basketball was finally back, and to see all the new storylines come out of the bubble, like the Suns going 8-0 and not getting into the playoffs, Milwaukee losing a bunch of weird games like to the Nets before they got into the playoffs. I mean, I think that should have been a warning sign for the playoffs, even though they were technically the 1 seed, for the fact that they could barely put on an effort against the Heat. But then again, the Heat, easily the most surprising team down there in the NBA right now. They're one of the hottest teams. I think they ironic. The Heat, hot, killing it, on fire. But they have a legit chance of, I think it's going to be I think it's going to be a 7-game series between the Heat and the Celtics. I personally would like for the Heat to win out of that, mainly just so I could rub it in Ambrose's face and tell him that Boston doesn't deserve to make it.
Yeah.
But I really do want to see Jimmy Butler play in the finals. Bam Adebayo is quickly becoming a favorite, 5 for me. Tyler Hero is a very exciting young player to watch. I think the Miami Heat have a lot going on. Eric Spoelstra is doing a phenomenal job as a coach, as he always does. I'm just excited to see the Heat. I'm the complete opposite for the Western Conference because you have the Lakers, you could have guessed, and I would prefer the Nuggets to make it to the finals, but who knows?
It would be interesting if the Nuggets were to make the finals. I don't think it's going to happen. I'm loving the Clippers slander that's happening right now.
Me too.
On
I
NBA
am
Twitter.
really loving it.
Deservedly so. And I'm with you. I want the Heat to win. I do think it's going to go into 7 games because those teams match up very well. They're both are very gritty teams. However, I do feel like the Celtics are probably the better team, and I feel like they would win in that series. I don't want them to, not just because I would love to shove it in Mr. Ambrose's face, but also I just don't like the Celtics. I'm a Nets fan. Come on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a reason to dislike the Heat, and Jimmy Butler's a heck of a guy.
Mm-hmm.
That dude's crazy. I actually have a Jimmy Butler jersey, a neon green Jimmy Butler Minnesota Timberwolves jersey.
Ooh. Wow, not like
$20 was a joke.
Not like a Chicago Bulls one or even a Philly one. That's fine.
Minnesota Timberwolves, baby. $20.
I have one basketball jersey, and it's a Dikembe Mutombo jersey. It's the nicest jersey I own.
Oh, I remember it.
It's like a legit old school Nuggets with the rainbow behind the skyline.
I love that logo.
I love it too. That's why I bought it. But moving off of basketball, everybody's moving into conference finals. Let's transition to baseball. Moving into the legit final stretch, I think there's only like 12 or so games left in the regular season before they decide to move to their bubble system, which will coincide in Texas or California or both. I'm not really sure how it works.
It's both. The World Series is going to be in Arlington,
yeah.
The new Globe Life Park. And then I know there's going to be one bubble in like LA. I think there is another one in Houston or Arizona, one of those.
Interesting. Definitely interesting, especially for the fact that you didn't have a bubble in your regular season, then you're transitioning to a bubble for your playoffs. But whatever. The MLB is what it is, and they are where they are. I would love to ask you how you feel that the Mets are doing, but I feel like I have an idea of how you feel the Mets are doing. But how do you feel about the Mets so far this year, Jose?
Well, know something, Chris Pham?
What's that, buddy?
There's 2 reasons I don't have expectations for anything anymore. The first – actually, no, it's one reason. It's one reason, and it is the Mets. They have killed my expectations throughout my life. You wouldn't know this, but I used to be – I still believe that I'm as much of a Mets fan as I was back then. But, man, I remember when in 2015 I would show up in high school, and we had to wear uniforms. I went to a public school that wore uniforms. But under the uniforms, every single day, I wore a different Mets shirt.
Wow.
If I was on Twitter in high school, I would be that person you need to mute when the Mets were playing baseball in the playoffs. I was nuts. And then they lost the World Series on my birthday.
Oh, man.
I've never, until recently, although last year was kind of tough, but like before that, I had a few good years with birthdays, but before college, I had the worst birthdays, and that was one of the really bad birthdays. Listen,
oh man,
this team loves to break my heart, and they've really made me numb to everything. So my response to the season, I'm not surprised. I still did think the Mets were going to make the playoffs because of the expansion that they did, adding another team, and they still managed to screw it up. I do think that they're very unlucky. However, I also believe that they aren't managed efficiently enough. And finally, we have a new owner coming to town, Mr. Insider Trader himself, Steve Cohen. He would be the richest owner in sports today, and man, oh man, am I happy about that. I can say that our owner is not the second worst owner in all of sports behind James Dolan. Man, that I'm hype about. But you want to talk about the Mets, it's just a normal Mets season to me, where it's up and down, they're underperforming, Jacob deGrom is amazing, and this team's not going to make the playoffs. That's it. It's everything I kind of expected. I can't say I'm surprised by that much. The only thing I would say I'm surprised about is how good Dominic Smith is playing. The guy is amazing, and it's amazing to me because of what he's going through. Mm-hmm. Because, like, I don't know, I'm sure you know about it. You work for him. When SNY did that little discussion with him, and that was really, really powerful. Hearing what he would say about the BLM movement right now, what he's gone through throughout his life as a baseball player and as an African American man, it was incredible. And I've already respected him as a player and as a person, but seeing because like when the moment he was drafted, I saw it. I saw the moment he was drafted because he was like at the Secaucus Studios and he looked like a really stand-up guy. He looked very fun-loving. Like, how could you not like this guy based on his personality? I mean, come on. This guy's awesome. Mm-hmm. Had a rough few seasons when he first came up. Dude is balling out like crazy right now. Not playing terrible defense in left field. He's not a left fielder, that's why. But still, he is raking. I'm so happy for him. I just hope that he keeps getting better. Not just, because he's playing for my favorite team, but he is an amazing person, in my opinion. That's like my only surprise. Everything else has not surprised me. Jacob deGrom's doing great. I don't think he's going to win the Cy Young this year after yesterday's start, but you know what? That's okay. That guy's still incredible, and I love him. It's more of the same. There's nothing surprises me at this point. I'm just numb to the pain.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I think the main thing that has surprised me, I guess, I don't know if surprise is the word, though I guess let down would be a little bit more, is Pete Alonso is just, sophomore slump doesn't even describe it. It's like he's not the same person, almost. He's not, because last season, I mean, granted, when you're doing well, you have fun, but it doesn't, he doesn't look like he's enjoying himself while playing the sport anymore. If anytime the camera goes to Pete Alonso, he's either cracking a bat over his knee or smashing it in the dugout, or he's out in first, like constantly counting his mitt, like just with a frown on his face. I think that's sad to see this year, but granted that it is sophomore slump is a thing for a reason, and he's very clearly in one. I'm glad to see Jeff McNeil is no longer awful. He's better now. He is much better now. The fact that was it 4 home runs in a row?
Yes, he hit. I couldn't believe it.
I know. I was so tempted that there was like that fourth game he had like a negative or a minus 180 for if he was going to hit a home run that game. I was so, or it was more than that. It was like minus 300 something for betting, and I was like, I almost want to take it because the dude is raking right now. But yeah, I didn't do it. I'm not a huge sports gambler. I want to test the waters, but not right now. Gotcha. But everything you said about the Mets, I agree. I'm gonna withhold my feelings about Steve Cohen until more dealings happen because SNY is still up in the air.
That makes sense.
So once everything is fleshed out and he is the full-fledged owner, and I'll be excited for this offseason to see what he does. But other than that, I think most of Mets Twitter is very excited that the old owners are no longer part of the team. They're excited for Papa Steve to come in and spend all of his money. So it should be very exciting times for Mets fandom all over. Transitioning.
I sure hope so.
Another Ets team you are a fan of, the Jets trash. Boy, was this Sunday hard for you, huh?
Not really. Like I said, I'm numb to the pain. See, there's better reasons for me to be a Mets fan and a Mets fan The reason I'm a Jets fan is so stupid, but I'm not shying away from it. Like, I'm gonna stick with them. I'm always gonna stick with them. I'm a very committed person. I became a Jets fan because I wanted to spite a girl I had a crush on in high school. She was a Giants fan, and
Wow.
at the time the Jets were really good. Well, they weren't really good. They didn't make the playoffs. They should have, but they choked.
What is that?
That was my first time.
2013,
2015.
2015.
Senior year of high school. And I was like, yeah, man, this Jets team, pretty darn good. I'm going to stick with them. And they were terrible ever since then. Listen, it pains me, but it also entertains me. No rhyme intended. To see some of our friends, optimistic Jets fans, thinking that the Jets are going to go somewhere this year.
Yeah.
It is asinine to me why people think that this team is going to go somewhere in a season where they don't have their two best defensive players because one of them was traded and the other one called out for COVID, which makes perfect sense considering the circumstances. But this team, to me, just has I have no expectation. At best, I expect a 4-12 season from this team. Listen, I'm going to stick with them. I'm losing confidence in Sam Darnold. I was facing that realization today. I'm like, wow, I was thinking about that today. It's like, I don't think this is going to work. I want it to work so bad, but he's not giving me a reason to stay or like to stay committed to like him as like thinking he's the future. I'm not on the Sam train anymore, and that stinks because he's exactly who I wanted on draft night in 2018, and it just has not worked out at all. I feel like this team is just bad. I'm really good at fantasy football though. That's cool.
Yeah,
I went 2-0 last week.
You and I are in a fantasy league together, which is very
yeah. I'm sorry, I'm gonna have to beat you eventually.
Yeah, you were like this a year ago or 2 years ago when we were in the same fantasy league too. You did go undefeated though. You did, and then you lost in the championship game, right?
Yes, I lost because my running back Philip Lindsay broke his arm.
Right.
In the game.
Right.
Couldn't get me the extra points.
Right.
Oh man, Philip Lindsay has found a way to screw me over. No, listen, the guy got hurt. I get that, but like even when I didn't have him afterwards, he hurt me. That's fantasy, but I love it. It's really fun. It's that's what I feel like. That's what I miss the most, honestly, about football. Watching Red Zone and looking at my fantasy team do well, because thankfully, I'm confident in my drafting, and I feel like I'm pretty good at that. So it's cool with me. I like it.
Yeah, fantasy is a lot of fun.
Doing bad.
I mean, the Jets doing bad is just a normal. It's a normal thing at this point. So, yeah. I mean, I don't know how much of hopes I can really have, I guess, for a lot of teams in the long run, because you still have to kind of hold out that little era of like that bubble of doubt that there's another potential chance of like an outbreak in professional sports leagues. In the NFL right now is the most susceptible to it happening. I mean, granted, they seem to be very safe in their procedures and stuff like that, but then again, they just had to issue a warning to coaches who weren't wearing their masks properly on the sideline. I mean, granted, that was basically just like a direct attack, I guess, on Sean McVay, who had his mask below his chin the entire game for the Los Angeles Rams. But I don't know. I hold out hope that they will remain healthy and we can get a actual full sports season, not like one in a bubble or one that's shortened and condensed. I'm glad that football's back. It's fun and it brings a tiny sense of normalcy back with all three sports being played. I guess transitioning off sports, we talked a lot about it and, both of our fandoms. I'm a Giants fan, so there's no reason to talk about them. They are just as bad as the Jets. Let's transition just back to you before we end up wrapping things up here. You talked a little bit before about your job, but what exactly are you doing for work now, and how did you get there?
So I was applying for a lot of admin jobs because I have a lot of experience working in admin places, or working as an admin in places. I consider myself to be a pretty awesome secretary. So I accidentally applied for a temp agency for a job through them one night at like 2 a.m. I wake up at 9:30 in the morning to a phone call. I have no idea who it's from, and it's a recruiter saying, "Hey, this job you applied to last night got filled, but I found another one close by to you if you're interested." I'm like, "All right," and it paid well for me. And I'm now an admin assistant at a condo association in Gothenburg, and it is by far the most stressful job I've ever had. It's very I want to bash my head against the wall sometimes because it's very tedious. There's a lot of stuff like leaks. I work it as a maintenance person or an admin for maintenance people. When somebody reports that they have a leak in their toilet, they call me and say, "Hey, I have a leak," and I'm like, "All right, I will send somebody at 3 p.m. today," and somebody goes, and then so that's like the main thing of my job. But the thing is, it happens just so often in these 3 towers. There's 3 towers in this in these buildings. There's over 1,000 apartments here, so I'm getting calls left and right. I average over 100 calls a day, but it pays the bills. I have an apartment now. I have a roommate. It's awesome. I love it. And I'm grateful for the opportunity because, at a time like this, to have something like that fall into my lap, literally, like I was literally asleep and an offer came to me. I'm very grateful for that. So it's definitely a tedious job, but it's worth it because, I'm able to live the life that I want to live the best I can at a time like this. I'm still being as safe as possible. But, I'm just happy that I'm able to, I did this on my own too.
Mm-hmm.
Usually there's like, a lot of my previous jobs, my mom used to work for a staffing agency, or a temp agency. So I used to get jobs through that. This one I did on my own. I applied for this on my own. This was my own experiment, and so far I would say it has worked out for me. Even if it's stressful, it gets the job done, and I'm able to, save up money for myself, live my life now, and pay what I need to pay. So overall, I definitely say it's definitely more of a positive impact. The work is stressful no matter what, I feel like. And I'm just happy to have this opportunity, honestly.
Well, that's good. Are you I mean, obviously you just said you're happy with what you're doing right now. Is there any chance for you that you would want to go back into the world of media, or are you primarily looking to stay in the administration portion?
The moment I get the call, I'm going back to the media world. I want to go back to my calling. This is just something to hold me over because, I don't like being productive. I feel like wasted potential is one of my pet peeves.
Yeah.
And I feel like I had an opportunity to do something for myself and to, not only, I get to do something, but I get to make money for myself and help build for my future because, I'm still pretty darn young. But the moment I'm able to get that opportunity, it's hard for these opportunities to come at a time like this. So I know, like, I've been applying for a lot of stuff. But right now I'm just waiting for an opportunity to emerge, and I'm still going to keep trying to make those opportunities happen. But the moment they do, I definitely am going to come back in a heartbeat.
Oh, good. That's good. Just one more thing before we wrap up. How does it feel now not to be back at school for the first time, not having to worry about buying books or getting ready for your schedule or classes or anything like that?
I definitely miss it. I miss seeing a lot of my friends. That's what I value the most. That's what I valued the most during my time at Seton Hall. It was being able to see my friends every single day,
Yeah.
being around people who I like genuinely care about and enjoy spending my time with. So that's like the biggest loss, I feel like. I definitely miss dressing up and wearing my cool outfits because I have my little style. But it's definitely weird. It's more convenient because I don't have to travel as much as I used to. I used to take 2 trains and I would have to run, depend on NJ Transit, which is never a good idea.
Never.
But this for the first time, it's not that big of a deal. I'm a routine person. I like my routines. So I have a relatively steady one with what I have now. So it's kind of like the same thing, except this time I'm able to make more money consistently. I definitely wish, part of me still wishes, yeah, I wish I was still back in school. But at the same time, school is tough right now, considering the circumstances. So at the same time, I'm like, I miss it, but I'm happy I'm not there right now because I know it's not going to be what I would have wanted as far as an education goes. I'm satisfied with the way things went down for at least most of my time at Seton Hall until the very end when, everything went down, and unfortunately I missed out on a lot, like my doing the walk for graduation stuff. I am desperate to do that walk because I'm going to be the first person in my family to do that.
Yeah.
Nobody's ever gotten a college degree in my family. So I definitely wanted to be that person. And I mean, I am that person. I got the degree, but I wanted to do that walk because it's very meaningful to me. So hopefully Seton Hall can still get that going. I know they said they're still trying, and they're committed to doing so. So I hope they keep their word with that.
Yeah, I hope so too. I mean, I have a lot of you guys that I'm friends with that graduated this past year that I really do hope for that you all get that opportunity because you worked hard for it and you deserve it. And hopefully it comes sooner rather than later. But Jose, thank you so much for coming on. It was so nice being able to talk to you again and see you again and just cover this whole range of topics that we talked about. Really, is there anything else that you would want to say or shout out before you go?
Shout out to everybody who was on the show already. You guys are awesome. And most of those people are kind of cool people that I am very much friends with. And thank you, fam. And to Tommy, too. I wish he was here. I was very delighted to be invited to do this. It was awesome. And listen, if there's one thing people know about me, it's that I love to talk about myself. So
hopefully you don't
it was
talk to
definitely fun to
yourself,
do. I say that half-heartedly, of course. But thank you. It was awesome. And it was definitely, I needed this because, times are tough right now. It's very odd. This is the new normal. And it was nice kind of like having the opportunity to relax, talk to one of my good friends about, catching up and seeing how life is treating, I guess, me from your perspective. So, yeah, and I get to see a bit of what you're doing too. So it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very glad that you were on. I'm sure Tommy is kicking himself right now that he wasn't able to come on. He's feeling a little under the weather.
I'm going to kick him later.
I'll kick him too. Don't worry. Plenty of kicks will go around. But I'm so grateful that you were able to come on. I look forward to seeing you very soon. And thank you again so much. I hope you have a great rest of your night. And thank you to all of you for watching. Please like and subscribe One Shot Entertainment on YouTube. Check out our previous podcasts and a lot more hopefully to come in the future. Thank you so much and have a good one.